The Atheist Debates Patreon Project presents Secular Bible Study, Ecclesiastes. This is a video that I haven't normally done. Someone actually gave like $100 super chat to ask me to do this, and it was the kind of thing that I was looking to potentially do more of. So we're going to go through the entire book of Ecclesiastes. Don't worry, it's pretty short. It's 12 chapters, and we're not going to read every word of it, but I'm not a historian, and I'm not a linguist. I'm not a theologian. I'm an atheist. I'm a former Christian. I'm a skeptic, a humanist, a lifelong Bible study, but I'm not an expert. And so I'm not going to dig in especially deep on a number of different things, but I wanted to look at this in part because I was asked to, but also because I enjoy doing this type of stuff. I've done it for ages. And so if you would like to see more of this from a secular perspective, by all means, let me know. On the authorship of the book of Ecclesiastes, we don't know. And that's okay. It is absolutely understandable. It's not a big deal. It won't be relevant to what we talk about here today, but Kohelet is the author, but nobody's sure if it's a name or a pen name or a title. The name Ecclesiastes is attributed to the book as an English transliteration of the Greek word that was used in the Septuagint to represent the Hebrew Kohelet. So it was written in Hebrew and then translated into Greek, and then the Greek Old Testament, the Septuagint, gets translated in English, and they keep a transliteration. So Ecclesiastes, which sounds cool, is basically a respin of a version of Kohelet, and we don't know who that is. Now, there are a lot of people that suggested that this was written by King Solomon. I know plenty of people who are like, oh no, it was definitely written by King Solomon. There are really good reasons, not just timeline reasons and stranger words in, but actual content reasons to think that this is almost certainly not King Solomon, but it doesn't matter. It's somebody telling a story, a narrator, Kohelet, the teacher, or the narrator is telling the story of Kohelet, the teacher, the preacher, could be assembly. The purpose of this thing is just to leave it as someone who is claiming to be the greatest, wealthiest, wisest king of Jerusalem, and probably the most humble too. There are many well-known passages in this book that have made it into literature, and you've seen it in Footloose and everything else. We'll go through some of them as we look through the 12 chapters, but the nutshell of the story of the entire book is everything ends, nothing satisfies, it is useless to try, life isn't fair, nobody knows what happens after you're dead, and nothing here matters. So eat, drink, be content with your lot in life, but above all, obey God. Now, I'm going to go through the book and read sections, but not to teach a Jewish or a Christian message, obviously. You can find plenty of those videos elsewhere. But to point out both the good and bad things that I see it from a secular, skeptical, humanist perspective. Somehow we jumped to chapter 3. So right here, and I'm not going to do this a lot. As a matter of fact, we're going to jump out of the King James here in a moment. This is the King James, and so you can see that the original word here is Kohelet. It is assembler or preacher or teacher or whatever else. I don't like having this up with the dictionary. It's what I end up using to study a lot, and the King James itself is difficult. So let's go with the English Standard Version, but I might occasionally peek over to this easy to read version because it is the closest thing I think I have to the New International Version. And the New International Version is copyrighted, so I don't like to use it. in the videos, even though I own a copy and could use it. So all is vanity is essentially what we see in the King James, etc., and also in the English Standard. But vanity in this context is not about thinking you're pretty. It really just means futile or futility, that something is transitory, unsatisfactory, that your efforts are, it's an unfruitful, unwise effort. And so when the author here, we'll alternate, between these. When the author here says that everything is vanity or all is vanity, they're basically saying that this is about all the time that you've spent in the hopes of something that was ultimately unachievable, thinking that you're going to be able to accomplish something that you actually cannot. That is the vanity. That is the futility. It may get tied into other stuff with notions of vainglorious and all that, but I'm not here to do an etymology course or a Hebrew course or anything. But that self-aggrandizing modern version of vanity may come from those things where you have put yourself equal to God. Like, this is something humans can't achieve, but you're going to try anyway. It is vanity to do that. You're essentially putting yourself in the position of God, and has nothing to do really with beauty. But that's the arrogance that led to, I believe, the modern usage of vanity. But it doesn't matter. It's basically saying only God can make a tree. It would be futile for you to try, and yet you do, and you try to. So we have the introduction from the narrator, that this first 11 verses here, that just says, the words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Why does man gain, or what does man gain, by all the toil and the work that he does under the sun? I'm going to switch over to this, because it might be easier for some of you to follow. If you want to dig in on other versions, you can. The entirety of chapter 1 is an introduction that just begins by saying, essentially, everything is futile. Everything amounts to nothing in the end. Every day is just another day. It's just like the other days. Do people really gain anything from all the hard work they do? People live and die, but the earth keeps going. The sun rises and goes down. It hurries and rises again in the same place. What was the point of it crossing the sky if it's just going to come up again? The wind blows and it blows around. All the rivers flow and they flow to the same place, and they flow to the sea, but the sea never fills up. It's not that they just didn't know about the water cycle or anything else. This is also just kind of poetry, that this continues. It's not saying necessarily that the earth is unchanging, but from the standpoint of an individual's life and the time you spend here, and perhaps the lives of most of humanity, it's pretty unchanging. Today is pretty much the same as yesterday. And it feels very much to people as if everything we do is a waste of time because we have to do it again. I ate yesterday. Crap, I got to eat again today. But that doesn't mean that what you ate yesterday wasn't valuable. It nourished you for yesterday. Life is its own reward, and each day is its own reward. I wish messages like that were clearer in Ecclesiastes, but this is essentially some nihilistic whining that I don't say whining in a pejorative sense, that we've all done. It says here that, everything flows to the sea never becomes full. Words cannot fully explain things, but people continue to talk. Words come and go in and out of our ears, but our ears don't become full, obviously. And our eyes don't become full of what we see. All things continue. This is persistent, and nothing you've ever done is going to make a dent in the grand scheme of things. And there's nothing new under the sun. In verse 10, somebody might say, look at this as new, but it's always been there. And people don't remember what happened too long ago, and in the future, they will not remember what's happening now. And later, people will not remember what the people before them did. It's all wasting away. And so, this teacher, was king over Israel. Some claim it was Solomon, but there are linguistic clues, that suggest that it isn't really possible. But whether it's Solomon or not, the words present in this book are here to show concepts that stand or fall on their own. So it doesn't matter whether Solomon was the author. Whoever this was, and even if it's just a fictional account of this king wanted to learn everything. But it was too difficult. It was so difficult that he claims to have looked at everything. I think he's being a little hyperbolic. And he said it was like trying to catch the wind. I am very wise, wiser than all the kings, he says, and tried to find out why wisdom is better than foolishness, but I learned that you cannot become wise because the more you know, the sadder you become. So with much wisdom comes frustration, and the wise aren't necessarily any better than the foolish. So he sets out to explore the world and find out, what can I learn? What can I glean from this? Is there any value anywhere? And started with, let's have some fun. I said to myself, I should have some fun. I should enjoy everything as much as I can, but I learned that this is also useless. Wow. I mean, we got like a sentence of, hey, let's have some fun. No, that's useless. It's foolish to laugh all the time. Well, yeah, it would be foolish to laugh all the time. But wouldn't it also be foolish to never laugh? Having fun doesn't do any good. But he's wrong. It does do good. Having fun, being entertained, being amused, being educated, and laughing, enjoying things, enrich your life. And they certainly, to some extent, are better generally than sadness and despair. And so he decided that he was going to fill his body with wine while he filled his mind with wisdom. Let me tell you, I'm unconvinced that filling your body with wine is in any way conducive to filling your mind with wisdom. And maybe the author of this spent a little too much time enjoying eating and drinking and not as much time thinking as he might have thought he did. He tried this foolishness because he wanted to find a way to be happy. He wanted to see what was good for people to do during their few days of life. Life is short. And then I began doing great things, he says. He built houses. He planted vineyards. That's important because he likes wine. He planted gardens. He made parks. He made all kinds of fruit trees. Or he planted fruit trees. I don't think he made a tree. Only God can make a tree. He made pools of water for himself, used them to water his trees. He bought men and women slaves, and there were slaves born in my house. I owned many great things. So already we're seeing someone here whose wisdom has not escaped the best wisdom of his era. He is still buying slaves. He's just showing that he had massive wealth, massive access to everything. He even owned people. I would think that perhaps throughout Ecclesiastes, he might learn a lesson that owning people is wrong. But he owned cattle and flocks of sheep, and he owned more things than any other person in Jerusalem. Sounds like you were greedy. It sounds like you were incredibly privileged. It sounds like you didn't have a particularly good perspective and that you weren't in a position to actually be just. He gathered silver and gold, took treasures from kings and their nations, which is basically saying he killed and plundered people. He had men and women singing for him. He had everything that anyone could want. He was rich and famous. Anything his eyes saw, he got it. And his mind was pleased with everything that he did. And this happiness was the reward for all of his hard work. What hard work? You were a king, and you sent people to die and kill and conquer and gather all this wealth. You didn't do any actual work to become the richest person ever at that time in Jerusalem. Just like the people who are the richest now, they had advantages and took advantage. It's not ethical or moral to be obscenely wealthy. But he was happy with it. And then, immediately after recognizing that this happiness was a result of his hard work, but he took a look at all of it and decided it was all a waste of time. It was like trying to catch the wind. He keeps going back to this. The same, it's almost like a song, like a chorus. So, this could be, it's another Song of Solomon. These refrains of, it was a waste of time, I was trying to catch the wind. He then decided to think about what it means to be wise or foolish. And I thought about who would be the next king. And the next king would do the same things that I did. And I saw that wisdom is better than foolish in the same way that light is better than darkness. Hooray! We've got something that I would hope to agree with. Wisdom is better than foolishness, but not in the same way that light is better than darkness, but in a metaphorical sense, sure. Wise people use their mind like eyes to see where we're going, but for fools, it's as if they're walking along in the dark. And I saw that fools and wise people both end the same way. Whoops. This is where we're seeing the nihilism repeatedly creep into the thoughts. Hey, wisdom is better than foolishness, but the wise and the fool both die. They both end up the same way. The same thing that happens to the fool happens to me, so why did I try so hard to become wise? Being wise is also useless. Whether people are wise or fools, they still die. No one will remember them, either of them forever. And in the future, people will forget everything that both of them did. And this realization made him hate life. It was depressing to think that everything in life is useless, like trying to catch the wind. There we go again. And he began to hate all the hard work he had done. I'm not quite sure what hard work there was, but when he says he built things, I'm not convinced he went out himself and built it. It may be more of an abstract of this isn't so much a king, but a civilization, an era, a construct of an idealized existence where you did everything right and it all went to naught. And so everything that he worked for, he's not going to be able to take it with him. So some other person is going to control everything that he worked and studied for. And he doesn't know if that person will be wise or foolish. So you could have done all this being wise and then end up just giving it to somebody foolish. That seems like a waste. So that made him sad. People can work hard using all their wisdom, knowledge, and skill, but they'll die, and other people will get the things they worked for. And those people didn't do the work, but they get everything. It's starting to sound very familiar. How dare they come and take what is mine? And he says, there's no one who's tried to enjoy life more than I have, and this is what I learned. The best thing people can do is eat, drink, and enjoy the work they must do, which I think is more accurately translated as eat, drink, and be content with your lot, which is going to be apparent with some things that he says, not to enjoy things. He also saw that this comes from God. If people do good and please God, he will give them wisdom, knowledge, and joy. But those who sin will get only the work of gathering and carrying things. Oh, so if you're good and you please God, you don't have to do the hard labor. But if you sin, you're going to be a laborer. This is very class structure-esque. And it says, God takes from the bad person and gives to the good person. But all this work is useless. It's like trying to catch the wind. This person's a little disjointed. In chapter 3, we get to some sayings that a lot of people are going to be familiar with. I mean, especially since there's songs written from this. To everything, there is a season. And doing it in the, I guess if I'm not doing it in the King James, it won't resonate as much, so we'll switch back. To everything, there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance, footloose, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather up stones, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. We've heard that many times, but right after saying, oh, there's all these times for all these things, he then goes on to lament how it's all going to go to waste. That, do people really get anything from their hard work? I saw all the hard work God gave us to do. God gave us the ability to think about his world, but we can never completely understand it. And yet he does everything at just the right time. I learned the best thing for people to do is to be happy and enjoy themselves as long as they live. God wants everyone to eat, drink, and be content. These are the gifts from God. I learned that anything God does will continue forever. People can't add anything to the work of God. They can't take anything away from it. God did this so that people will respect him. What happened in the past has already happened, and what will happen in the future will already happen. But God wants to help those who've been treated badly. Some of these phrases, some of these statements don't remotely go with each other. There are contradictions here that, oh, God wants you to be happy and content, but God gives work to the sinful, and God gives wealth and the works of the sinful to the wealthy, to the good. And then we get to the ashes to ashes, dust to dust part that a lot of people have been familiar with. I saw these things in life. I saw that the courts should be filled with goodness and fairness, but there's evil there now. So I said to myself, God has planned a time for everything, and he's planned a time to judge everything. He will judge good people and bad people. I thought about what people do to each other, and I said to myself, God wants people to see that they are like animals. The same thing happens to animals and people. They die. People and animals have the same breath. Is a dead animal different from a dead person? It's all so senseless. The bodies of people and animals end the same way. They come from the earth, and in the end, they all go back to the earth. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Who knows what happens to a person's spirit? Who knows if a human spirit ends up going to God while an animal's goes down into the ground? So I saw that the best thing people can do is enjoy what they do, because that's all they have. And no one can see what the future holds. So we're back to, it's all futile, but try to enjoy it. God would like you to enjoy it, but it's all still futile. You can't change anything. It's all going to end. It's probably not even going to end all that impressively. You're not going to matter. Chapter 4 is talking about how there are evil, cruel leaders, and what they're doing to the people makes death preferable to the suffering continuance of life. And notes that it's better to be satisfied with what you have than to strive for more and suffer. And that being alone is worse than being with others. So there's a sense of something about kind of building a community here. But if you read through it, it's better for those who have died than for those who are still alive. The people, the babies who are born. Why do people work so hard? I saw people try to succeed and be better than other people. They do this because they're jealous. They don't want other people to have more than they have. And some people say, hey, it's foolish. If you fold your hands, you're not going to be able to eat. But maybe that's true, but it's better to be satisfied with what I have than constantly struggling for more. And then I saw something else that didn't make sense. I saw a man who has no family, not a son or even a brother, but he continues to work. He didn't ask himself, why am I working? What am I working for? I don't have anybody to work for. I'm all on my own. It would be futile for me to work for myself. You should work because there are two people are better than one. When two people work together, they get more work done. Okay. I agree, but that doesn't tell me, well, I agree that sometimes when two people work together, they get more done. Sometimes they get vastly less done. If I had somebody here trying to help me get through this, it would take 3 times longer for us to get through this, but it might end up being a better product. You don't know. In any case, the videos are all going to get deleted. The world's all going to end, and everything I've ever said is going to be for naught. So why do anything? There's a little bit about camaraderie here, and a little bit about how the value of a young leader who is wise is better than an old, foolish king. But I don't think it's the age that matters. I think it's the wise leader and the foolish leader. I think the whole point there is just to say that age doesn't necessarily bring wisdom. And I believe that. I think experience can bring wisdom, and age can lose its wisdom. And that age isn't necessarily something to be respected. Respect your elders, but wisdom is. But he's watched people in this life, it says in verse 15, people will follow that young man, and he will become the new king. And many people will follow him, but later those same people will not like him. This is also senseless. It's like trying to catch the wind. This to me sounds like this king is frustrated that his subjects don't care for him. And so he's putting himself in I'm in the position of the young wise king, and you guys used to like me, and now you don't. But here's where we get to the instructions that aren't just whining, although it's still full of the nihilistic whining. Be very careful when you go worship God. It's better to listen to God than to give sacrifices like the fools. Fools often do bad things and they don't even know it. So be careful when you make promises to God. Be careful about what you say to him. Don't let your feelings cause you to speak too soon. God is in heaven and you are on earth, so you need to say only a few things to him. This saying is true. Bad dreams come from too many worries, and too many words come from the mouth of fools. If you make a promise to God, keep your promise. It's better to promise nothing than to promise something and not be able to do it. I'm not completely convinced how wise that is. And generally, if you know you can't do something, you shouldn't promise it. But I think making promises that you're unsure if you're able to complete, if you're honest about the attempt rather than the conclusion, then attempting to do things that you may not be able to achieve is what allows us to improve and strive towards greatness. I don't know for sure what the intent here was, but if it's about, hey, don't say you're going to do stuff you're not going to do. I agree. You should do what you say you're going to do, which is why when somebody came in and made a super chat asking me to do this, and I said I would do this video, I did this video. You could click like and subscribe, and you could go to patreon.com/atheistdebates and lend your support to videos like this as well. So don't let your words cause you to sin. Don't say to the priest, I didn't mean what I said. Cool. If you do this, God might become angry with you. You should not let your useless dreams and bragging get you in trouble. And then it goes through talking about wealth. And this is where we get especially whiny. We've heard what the person thinks about death to some extent. And we'll hear more of that. But what we're looking at here is this whole thing about you come in with nothing, you go out with nothing. So why did you do all this? And this is where we get to the meat of that. In some country, you'll see poor people who are forced to work very hard. You'll see that this is not fair to them. It is against their rights. But don't be surprised. The ruler who forces them to work has another ruler who forces him. And yet there is still another ruler who forces both of these rulers. Even the king is a slave. His country owns him. This is what I mean about this braggadocious, I'm better and wiser than everybody else. Why won't you people love me, king, whining his happy little ass off. Because he's like, yeah, I know you're going to see poor people working in conditions that aren't good and they're forced to work so very hard. And it's not fair. But it's also not fair to the king that has to manage that. He's a slave to all these people. I have to come up with solutions for all of you. I have to try to fix these problems. But are you fixing them? Those who love money will never be satisfied with the money they have. Those who love wealth will never be satisfied. They just want more and more and more and more and more, which is really weird for the guy who has more wealth than anyone in Jerusalem to be talking about. I think it's a way of saying, yeah, I'm rich, but, more money, more problems. That's kind of where it's going. He says there's a very sad thing that he's seen happen in this life. People save their money for the future. Then something bad happens and they lose everything. Hey, whether they saved money for the future or not, when something bad happens, like whatever, death and whatever, they've lost everything then. And so some catastrophe happens and they saved their money for the future, and then they had to spend that money that they saved to repair, and then they have nothing to give their children. People come into the world, and when they die, they leave with nothing. They could work hard to get things, but they can't take it with them. It's very sad that people leave the world just as they came. So what does a person get from trying to catch the wind? Why are you trying to get any wealth? Just give it to me. I'll help manage things for you. And trust me, I will carry that burden of your wealth. I'm saying that not just as the king. If any of you would like to burden me with your wealth, I'm willing to take on that burden for you. And I won't even make videos whining about how difficult it is to finally be wealthy. He says here that he's seen what it's best for people to do on earth. They should eat, drink, and be content with the work that they have during the time that they're here. God has given you a few days, that's all you've got, and he gives some people wealth and property and power to enjoy those things, and they should enjoy them. And they should accept the things they have and enjoy their work, because that's a gift from God. You don't have many years to live, so you need to remember these things all your life. This is very much the nihilistic whinings of extreme privilege. And I got my problems with the wealth and the privilege and everything else. The nihilistic whinings happen, all of us are guilty of things like that. Why isn't life fair? But after saying, hey, God's going to give some people wealth to enjoy and other people he's going to give work, and you should just enjoy it. Right at the beginning of the very next chapter, chapter 6, I've seen another thing in this life that is not fair, and it's very hard to understand. God gives some people great wealth, riches, and honor. They have everything they need and everything they could ever want, but then God does not let them enjoy those things. Hang on a second. Let's go back to the end of chapter 5 here, where he says, if God gives some people wealth, property, and power to enjoy those things, they should enjoy them. So it's not a contradiction. He's saying he gives some people wealth, riches, and power, but he doesn't give them the power to enjoy them. And some stranger comes in and takes everything. This is very bad and senseless. I think he got robbed. I think after sending his guys to steal wealth from other kings, I think he might have lost some battles and some people died, and he lost some wealth. And he's lamenting how sad that is. A man might live a long time and have 100 children, but he's not satisfied with those good things. And if no one remembers him after his death, I say that a baby who dies at birth is better off than that man. Except that this doesn't make sense, because 1,000 years after that, both of their lives were futile. And the baby that died didn't have any of the advantages or disadvantages of living or experiencing life. It comes with its trials. It comes with its benefits. Life generally isn't all miserable or all joy. It is a mix. And wisdom comes in the balance of trying to understand how best to navigate that mix. And everybody's mix is different. But he says that the baby's better off, but he follows it up by saying, it is senseless when a baby is born dead. The baby's quickly buried in a dark grave without even a name. The baby never even saw the sun, never knew anything, but the baby finds more rest than the man who never enjoyed what God gave him. He might live 2,000 years, but if he doesn't enjoy life, the baby was born dead and found the easiest path to the same end. People work and work to feed themselves, but they're never satisfied. In the same way, a wise person is no better than a fool is. Wait a minute, I thought wise people were better than fools. Nope, everything's the same, all is lost. We're bouncing back and forth between, here's the good side, here's the bad side, here's the good side, here's the bad side. Oh, it's all a waste, but it feels really good, but it doesn't feel good. And some people have it worse than you, and some people don't. Gosh, this just isn't fair. It's better to be a poor person who knows how to accept life as it is. That's exactly something that the privileged people would say. You should relish your poverty. I mean, you got it better than anybody. Or at least you've got it just as good as anybody. It's better to be happy with what you have than to always want more and more. What if what you want, what if you have is not enough, and what you want is enough, and there's somebody else who has more than enough? This seems very kind of scoldy. How dare you want some of my money? I'm the king. I have to suffer through all this for you. You should be happy with what you have. You are only what you were created to be, a human, and it's useless to argue about it. People cannot argue with God about this because he's more powerful than they are, and a long argument will not change that fact. Who knows what's best for people during their short life on earth? Hang on. Didn't you just say that you found out what's best for people? No one can tell them what will happen later. Yeah, but you just said there's contradictions here. Oh, I found out what's best for people, but nobody knows what's best for people. This is the pinnacle of sophistry and talking out of both sides of your mouth, whining about how bad things are when you have it better than anybody. Telling people who are worse off than you to just take their lot in life and suck it up. Chapter 7 is about the good reputation and the value of a good reputation, because the wise person thinks about death and the fool thinks about a good time. Enjoy your life, but if it sucks, know that God gave you the bad life too. Don't be too good or too bad. Don't be too wise or too foolish. All things in moderation, essentially. It's better to go to a funeral than to a party because everybody must die. Why can't a funeral be a party? Why, instead of merely celebrating or merely lamenting the loss of someone, we celebrate their life? Sorrow is even better than laughter, because when our face is sad, our hearts become good. I like that line, because I like to look at it as when we experience sorrow, that tears down the walls inside of us that are barriers to empathy with other people who are experiencing that sorrow. It makes us more empathetic. Putting yourself in the position of being the oppressed gives you more empathy for the oppressed. This is the same guy who owned slaves. Oh, slavery, slavery, slavery. If you wanted to know if slavery was right, all you had to do was put yourself in the position of the slaves. Would you want to be there? He is simultaneously saying, hey, I was made king, you were made a slave. I was made wealthy, that's my cross to bear. You got a sucky life, and I'm sorry. But in the end, none of it's going to matter. And yet he turns around and says that, oh, when we're sad, our hearts become good. Maybe it would be good if we exercised empathy even when we're not sad. Maybe we didn't need to wait for someone we love or ourselves to be the victim of a crime, to be the victim of an injustice before we care enough to act on those. Maybe if we weren't blind to the plight of others, we could instantly register, without experiencing the sadness ourselves, an empathetic sadness with them that allows us to put ourselves in a position to change the course of their lives for the better, which also changes the course of our lives for the better. It's better to be criticized by the wise than praised by the foolish. Yeah, I would agree with that. The laughter of fools is such a waste. It's like thorns burning under a pot. The thorns burn so quickly that the pot does not get hot. Even the wise will forget their wisdom if someone pays them enough. That money destroys their understanding. You know, we see that happen over and over again. It's definitely in the truism category that people will throw out their integrity and their wisdom for money. It's better to finish something than to start it. Well, it'd be nice if you finished what you started. But if you don't get started, you can't finish it. So it's impossible for finishing it to occur without starting it. So in order to finish it, you have to start it, or somebody does. Don't get angry too quickly, because anger is foolishness. Don't say, life was better in the good old days. What happened? See, here you are back in ancient times, and they were still saying, man, things used to be so much better. Wisdom does not lead us to ask that question. What happened? Why isn't it like the good old days? That's a stupid question. That's what it's saying. Wisdom is better if you also have property. Wise people get more than enough wealth. Wisdom and money can protect you, but knowledge gained through wisdom is even better. It can save your life. Actually, knowledge gained through wisdom can help you gain more wealth. It continues with, look at what God's made. You can't change a thing, even if you think it's wrong. So when life is good, enjoy it. But when life is hard, remember that God gave us the hard times too, and nobody knows what's going to happen. Here's where we start losing more of the script into his personal, petty bullshit. In my short life, I have seen everything. I have seen good people die young, and I've seen evil people live long lives. Yes, it is unjust. So why ruin your life? Don't be too good or too bad. Don't be too wise or too foolish. Why should you die before your time? Try to be a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Should I be a little bit country and a little bit rock and roll? A little bit fascist and a little bit communist? Is that median path really the good thing? Surely there's no one on earth who always does good and never sins. Agreed. But wisdom can make one person stronger than 10 leaders in a city. Don't listen to everything people say, because you could hear someone talking trash about you, and you know you've talked trash about other people, and you don't always mean it, or it doesn't always last. So if you heard it, you'd end up holding something against someone that you perhaps shouldn't. That is, I think, genuinely decent advice. He studied and he tried to find true wisdom. He tried to find a reason for everything. He learned that it's foolish to be evil and it's crazy to act like a fool. I got ahead of myself a minute ago. Here's where the problem really comes in. I also found that some women are dangerous like traps. Their hearts are like nets and their arms are like chains. It's worse than death to be caught by these women. God's followers should run from them. Let the sinners be caught by them. The teacher says, I added all this together to see what answer I could find. I am still looking for answers, but I did find this. I found one good man in 1,000, but I did not find even one good woman. If anybody was wondering if this was a king or a queen writing, I think that's probably clear now. People can be good or bad. Don't be too good. Don't be too bad. I found one good man in 1,000, but I couldn't find a good woman anywhere. And he thinks that God made people good, but they found ways to be bad. Now, after getting through a good chunk of that, it's time to get on to the nuts and bolts. It's time to say, obey the king. Of course, the king's going to say that. Hey, nobody can explain things the way wise people can. Their wisdom makes them happy. It changes a sad face into a happy one. I say you should always obey the king's commands. No. No gods, no kings, no masters, and not all commands from people in charge are good or lawful. No. Horrible advice, but it's not surprising coming from the king. But do this because you made a promise to God. Well, I didn't make a promise to God. I'm not aware that there's a God to make a promise to. I'll make promises to other human beings that I intend to keep. Don't be afraid to give suggestions to the king, and don't support something that is wrong. So don't follow unlawful orders. Hey, where did we hear that again? Oh, yes. Trump's upset about that. But remember, the king gives the commands that pleases him. He has the authority to give commands, and no one can tell him what to do. This is absolutely the talking out of both sides of your face. People will be safe if they obey his commands. That's not true. But wise people know the right time to do this, and they also know when to do the right thing. Hang on. It's very confusing as to when and what orders I should be following. There's a right time and a right way to do everything. You must decide what you should do, even when it might cause problems. And you're not sure what will happen. No one can tell you what will happen in the future. No one has the power to keep their spirit from leaving. You can't stop death. I saw all this, he says. I thought very hard about the things that happen in this world, and I saw that people always struggle for the power to rule others, and that's bad for them. Well, of course, the current ruler would not want other people to be trying to rule over people. And he says that, if you fear God, you'll do well. Sometimes people aren't immediately punished for the bad things they do. Their punishment is slow to come, and that makes other people want to do bad things too. A sinner might do 100 evil things and still live a long time, but I know that it's still better to obey and respect God. Evil people don't respect God, so they'll not get good things, and they will not live long lives. Their lives won't be like the shadows that become longer and longer as the sun goes down. And you can't know or understand God's ways. So I decided it was more important to enjoy life, because the best thing people can do in life is eat, drink, and enjoy life. At least that'll help people enjoy the hard work God gave them to do during their life on earth. I carefully studied the things people do in this life. I saw how busy people are. They work day and night, and they almost never sleep. And I also saw that nobody can understand what God does. There may be wise people who claim to understand the meaning of these things, but they're wrong. Nobody can understand it. Chapter 9 is pretty simple. Everybody dies. It's going to come to everybody, no matter what you do. The living know that they'll die. The dead don't know anything. After people are dead, their love, their hate, their jealousy are gone, and they'll never again share in what happens on earth. So go eat your food now and enjoy it. Drink your wine and be happy. It's all right with God if you do these things. I almost feel like this king once got a lecture that he was eating and drinking too much, and that this is his treatise for let's eat and drink more. Wear nice clothes and make yourself look good. Hey, we heard that from the transportation secretary, that we shouldn't be going on planes in pajamas. We should be wearing nice clothes. Enjoy life with the wife you love, as opposed to the wives you don't love. Enjoy every day of your short life. God's given you this short life on earth. It's all you have. So enjoy the work you have to do in this life. Every time you find work to do it the best you can. He's talking to his working force. I know it sucks that you have to work, and I get to sit here and eat and drink and lecture you. But, do your best. Go out and enjoy it. Then there's this thing about wisdom being better than folly again. He loves to think himself wise. This is one of the reasons why some people try to say that this is Solomon, the wisest of all, and he proclaims himself the wisest of all. But anyway, so you never know when hard times are going to come. You never know when you aren't going to catch fish, when disaster is going to befall you. So I saw a person doing a wise thing in his life, and it seemed important to me. There was a small town with a few people, and a great king fought against that town and put his armies all around it. But there was a man in that town. He was poor, and he used his wisdom to save the town. After everything was finished, the people forgot about that poor man. But I still say that wisdom is better than... How did he do it? What was the wisdom? Everybody forgot about that poor man and his wisdom, but you remember that there was a poor man and wisdom, but you don't tell us what it was? Words spoken by the wise are heard more clearly than those shouted by a leader among fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war. I agree. We're back to some whining, though, because in chapter 10, it's fools are given important positions. Money solves a lot of problems. Don't say bad things about the king. Matter of fact, here we go. Dead flies will make even the best perfume stink. The thoughts of the wise lead them the right way, but the thoughts of the foolish lead them the wrong way. Yes, wisdom is better than foolish. We got it. Fools show how foolish they are just walking down the road. Their minds are empty and everybody knows it. Don't quit your job just because the boss is angry with you. If you remain calm and helpful, you can correct even great mistakes. Here's something that I've seen in this life that isn't fair. It's the kind of mistake that rulers make. Fools are given important positions while the rich get jobs that are not important. I've seen servants riding horses while rulers were walking beside them like slaves. If you dig a hole, you might fall into it. If you break down a wall, you might get bitten by a snake. If you're moving large stones, you might get hurt by them. If you cut down a tree, you're in danger of it falling on you. But wisdom will make any job, yes, work smart, not hard. Someone might know how to control snakes, and I think this is about treating snake bite. But that skill is useless if the snake bites when they're not around. Correct. Some of these things are pretty simple and straightforward and ridiculous. Fools begin by saying something foolish, but in the end they speak nonsense. Wasn't that what they were speaking from the beginning? Or does it mean actual nonsense? Like, let me say something that's ridiculous. When you call me out on it, I'll just blah, 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 blah. Purple monkey dishwasher. Fools aren't smart enough to find their way home, so they must work hard all their lives. It's very bad for a country if the king is like a child. Hello, America. And it's very bad for a country if its rulers use all their time eating hamburgers. But it's good for a country if the king comes from a good family. No, the goodness of the family isn't what makes a king good for a country. What makes a king good for a country is abdication. It's very good for a country if their rulers control their eating and drinking. They eat and drink to become strong, not to become drunk. If someone is too lazy to work, their house will begin to leak and the roof will fall. People will enjoy eating, and wine makes life happier, but money solves a lot of problems. I mean, it's like they're drunk when they're writing this. You know, we really like to eat. And wine really makes me happy, and money solves a lot of problems. I know I just said a couple of verses ago that money really it comes with its own problems, and I will happily bear those problems for you. But money solves a lot of problems. Chapter 10 ends with, don't say bad things about the king. Don't even think bad things about him. Don't say bad things about rich people. Even if you're alone in your home, a little bird might fly and tell them everything you said. Don't say bad things about the king or the wealthy, because somebody might overhear you and tell them, and your life will get worse. Isn't that the very reason that we are constantly and should constantly be talking about the unjust, the kings, and the obscenely wealthy? Aren't they doing that and exercising that power now, constantly? We're closing in. Chapter 11 and 12 are going to be much quicker. I'm going to get this done probably in less than an hour. Chapter 11, cast your bread upon the water. Soon it's going to come back home for you. Anyway, do good wherever you go. I agree. After a while, the good you do will come back to you. I don't think that that's necessarily true, but I will agree that if everybody were consistently doing better, the world would be better. Invest what you have in different things. You don't know. Yes. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Cool. You don't know where the wind blows. Begin planning in the morning. Don't stop working until evening. You don't know what might make you rich. Maybe everything you do will be successful. It's good to be alive. It's nice to see the light from the sun. Don't let your anger control you. Don't let your body lead you to sin. People do foolish things in the dawn of life when they're young. Yes. When you're young, you're going to screw up. Chapter 12 is the final thing. Remember your Creator. And don't just wait until you're in your later years when your arms have lost your strength, your legs are weak and bent, your eyes don't see clearly, your teeth will fall out, you're hard of hearing, you won't hear the noise on the street, you'll be afraid of high places, you'll be afraid of tripping over things in your path. Basically, this king is in his old age, seemingly, saying, I'm broke, I'm frail, I'm afraid of everything. I wish I would have remembered my Creator more in my youth, and so now I'm going to lecture everybody else, and I'm going to try to remember my Creator now. Because we all came from the earth. When you die, you return to the earth, but your spirit came from God, and your spirit will return to God when you die. First of all, there's no reason to think that you have a spirit, or that it came from God, or that you know where it will return. As a matter of fact, it's pretty silly for somebody who just got done saying multiple times that nobody can tell you what happens after you die, that after you die, your spirit will go back to God. But most importantly, what should we learn from everything in the book? This, by the way, at the end is no longer the teacher. It's the narrator talking about what they've learned. The teacher was very wise. He used wisdom to teach it. Respect God and obey his commands because he knows about everything people do, even the secret things. He knows about all the good and the bad, and he will judge people for everything that they do. Which is weird because the teacher just got done explaining nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen in afterlife. It's all speculation, and all this is for waste. So what do I take away from this as a secular humanist that I haven't already expressly said? We know the teacher loves to eat and drink. And we know that the teacher is, as king, is really highly fond of himself and of kings because he is one, and of the class system that keeps him struggling with wealth while other people are struggling without wealth. The teacher has loads and loads of frustration and seems to alternate in a rather chaotic fashion between it's all futile to enjoy it anyway, but with limits. But why? Because it won't matter, but you should. At the end, to me, this sounds like a pretty common bit of existential whining rooted in flawed expectations. It even exposes some of those flawed expectations. Why do you think life should be fair? Why do you think life was better in the good old days? Where's your suggestion that it should be fair? I know it feels like it should be fair, and I agree with you, it should be fair. But why do you stupidly think it's going to be fair when you know it's not? I'd like to think that we've come a long way since these struggles with nihilism. But we haven't. Yeah, we have a bit more nuance. We have a bit more wisdom than we had then. We have a better understanding of where the author and the teacher were wrong. But these thoughts persist in people regularly. And they can lead to despondency. I've had conversations with plenty of atheists who fall into nihilism and feelings of despondency about the futility of everything and how it's all going to end and it's all for waste. And it's almost like the author here is saying, yeah, nihilism is bad and it's probably correct, but let it go and let God. But only in little bits. Don't be too good. Don't be too this. Don't be too that. All things in moderation. Try to make the best of it. It's going to suck. You know it's going to suck. Whereas as a humanist, I'd say that the despair that you feel is the result of the nihilism that was tied on to life by religious pretensions that there should be cosmic justice, that there should be meaning and purpose, that there should be fairness and value, that you should have enough to eat, and that when, as secular humanists, you recognize that it's up to us to create justice, to create meaning and purpose, to create and work towards equality, to create and work towards lifting others up, that this is not only an empowering view that removes the false expectations which are causing people distress. And it allows you to take the good thoughts from Ecclesiastes and actually enjoy life. Not merely by eating, drinking, and being content, but by learning and teaching, and by striving for improvement and justice. To struggle against the dying of the light, to struggle against the defeatist mentality of nihilism, and to help each other. Because we're a part of that help. We are the beneficiaries of the help that we offer others as well. It does us good. It raises all boats. We benefit from each person we help understand that there doesn't need to be a magical afterlife to make up for the problems that exist in the one and only life we know we're going to get. There just needs to be the very mundane and also extraordinary empathy, compassion, honesty, integrity, and justice that comes from us, and seemingly only can come from us. No gods or masters or magic required. See you next time.